Hey everybody, welcome to the coop at Crafting a Calmer Self, our chicken coop, which is really more of a craft coop. And I'm trying something a little different this month because some of my artist friends sometimes have some extra time, or they can't make a particular class, or they remember something that I taught. So I'm going to do a class today. This is one of my favorite things to do this time of year, and it's how to draw a perfect pumpkin every time. So some of you who know me um, might know that I do this every fall in my different classes. So how to draw a perfect pumpkin every time. A lot of times, and there's nothing wrong with this, you draw like a circle or one big shape. So you draw the outline and then you add the lines going in. What we're going to do is we're going to start inside and move out. And this tends to give you a little bit more of a realistic looking pumpkin. And it's very simple. And once you start doing it, you'll keep doing them and you can make them all different sizes. You can make them very tall and skinny. You can make them very big overall, or you can make them kind of shorter and chunkier, a little bit like me. So that's what we're going to do today, a basic drawing class. So what do you need to draw a perfect pumpkin? All you need is a piece of paper. I prefer a nice pad, some nice kind of mixed media or drawing paper is nice because it's nice and thick. And when you use markers or other things, it doesn't bleed through the paper. But if all you've got is a regular composition notebook, spiral bound notebook, you've got some printer paper, that's cool. That's fine. Don't worry about it. We don't stress. We don't stress. Okay? So you need some kind of paper. The next thing is you can use a pencil. I'm going to use marker because I think it's easier for you all to see, but you're going to need some markers. Everybody who knows me knows that Mr. Sketch is no endorsements, not paid, but Mr. Sketch is really kind of my favorite markers to deal with because they have really great colors. I like to work with the flat, fatter tips because that way it gives you some different ways to make lines and to color, which is really helpful. So if you don't have these, maybe get a pair for your art kit. But you can also use a pencil to sketch out your design first and then go back and outline in marker. Always have a pencil around and an eraser. And when you're working in pencil, go softly. Don't give it all your pressure because those lines are harder to erase. So just go lightly, kind of sketch. But I'm going to go for it. I'm going to give it a shot with my marker. So if you want to try that too, that's cool. We don't stress. So what colors are you going to need with markers? If you don't have Mr. Sketch, that's okay. The Crayola, anything you pick up at Target, dollar store, doesn't matter. The colors I'm going to work with today is I'm going to work with brown for the outline of my pumpkin. You can also work with orange or red or black. It doesn't really matter. I have two different colors because I may want to color in my stem and keep that brown. So I'll see. I'll see what I'm going to do. We're also going to need some type of orange color. And I'm going to add in a little yellow because I might add some little bit of highlighting, some brightness, and fill in some areas of my pumpkin in yellow. But you can use any pumpkin-y colors. You're also going to need some type of green if you want to draw some grass. You can also add a little bit of red and brown to that because it is fall and everything's starting to change colors. But this will be for my vine, my leaves, and my grass. So whatever colors you want to work with is totally fine. So let's get going. I got my pumpkin mug, my pumpkin spice coffee or latte, whatever it is, and let's get drawing. Okay, so this is where we're going. we're going to basically draw the, the outline of our pumpkin first, and then we're going to we're going to complete the pumpkin by adding color to it. But you don't have to. You can just learn to draw them, and they look pretty cool. So, as I said, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start our pumpkin in a little different way. We're going to start the inside, working our way out. So it has a more realistic look to it. It looks a little bit more like that. If you look at a real pumpkin, okay, which I haven't bought my pumpkins yet, they're kind of done in sections, and that's what we're going to do. So instead of doing the circle, we're going to add section by section to our pumpkin. So let's see how it goes. The first color you're going to do is you're going to get your black marker, your brown marker, whatever marker that you like to draw in. And we're going to do one pumpkin, and we're going to center the pumpkin in the page. You don't have to. You can draw as many pumpkins as you like, but before, if you've never done this before this, it's good to practice with one. And we're going to make it kind of big. And I'm going to put mine in the center. If you want to add more things to your pumpkin, you can always put it to the side, but I kind of like a center. I'm kind of middle of the road type of person with my art when I'm working on my composition, when I'm setting my design or my subject matter in my drawing or painting. So if you're a person that likes things really centered and you don't know how to do that, or you're worried that if your pumpkin's off to the side one way or the other, a very simple way to do that is we're going to fold the paper in half so we know where the center is. As you can see, I'm holding my pumpkin in landscape format. So that is where it is short and wide. That's going to give us a lot of area to draw a nice, fat, thick pumpkin. You can also do it in portrait, but your portrait painting, it might be a little trickier to figure out in the center, but we can figure that out. But what I'm going to do is to figure out the center of my paper, instead of measuring and getting a ruler, all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my paper close. I have a binder, a spiral bound here, so I'm not going to fold it over. But if you have just a plain piece of paper, you're just going to fold it nicely, kind of matching the ends that we see here. I'm just going to fold it in half, and I'm just going to very lightly, I don't even need to do the whole thing, I'm just kind of smushing right in the center. So I see like a slight crease. If you are a person that doesn't like creases in your paper because you want to frame this, then don't do that step. Don't worry about it. Just figure out, go with what feels right to you for your center. So I'm going to take my brown marker, okay, and I want to make sure that I have some area below and a little bit of area above my pumpkin, because I want to put some grass, and I want to put maybe my stem and maybe some leaves and other things going on. Okay, so that way we want to make sure we don't start all the way at the bottom or all the way too much at the top. So we kind of want to go right smack dab. The sweet spot is in the middle. So what we're going to do first is we are going to draw kind of like a very tall, rounded rectangle that's standing tall, okay? So I'm going to start around here, okay, around there. And I'm just going to kind of come up, and it's like kind of like a curve, okay? Kind of coming up there, okay? And what I like about these markers is they have a nice flat end. And if I want to make it a thicker line, I can. If I want to make a thick line, I'm going to use the wide part of my marker. If I want to make it a thin, I'm just going to hold my marker a little bit differently, and I can draw a thinner line, okay? But I like nice thick lines. That's what I'm going to do here. Okay, so I kind of have, this pumpkin's maybe a little bit smaller than my other pumpkins. Okay, so I have kind of this tall, kind of oval, kind of roundish rectangle. Now I'm going to add two more sides to my pumpkin on each side. So I'm going to go close to the top, close to the top. I'm going to draw kind of like a rounded crescent moon or coming down towards the bottom, starting at the top and coming down towards the bottom. I'm just going to come in there. And it doesn't matter if it's not perfect, okay? Don't worry about it. No pumpkins are. Pumpkins are kind of lumpy bumpy wherever you see them, lumpy bumpy. Once you do that on one side, you're going to kind of draw that on the other side. Now you have a cute little pumpkin. I have a squirrel on top of my coop. You have a little cute pumpkin. 1, 2, 3 sections. If that's all you want to do, you've got yourself a little tiny pumpkin, and that's a perfect pumpkin. If your bottom piece comes out lower than these pieces, don't worry about it. All mine are kind of different. This is where we're going. This is where we're at. All right, let's see what we're going to do next. I need a bigger pumpkin. I need a bigger pumpkin. So I'm going to add another section on each side, So once again, I'm kind of starting at the top, not so much at the middle, because I'm going to leave some space there for my stem, and I'm going to bring it towards the bottom of this half. So I'm going to kind of come down like that. And I'm going to kind of come over. We go. I'm going to do it again on the other side. Okay, there's my pumpkin. That's it. That is it. That is all you need to do for a pumpkin. And just to rehash, remember, we find the center of our page. We kind of make that rectangular shape. Yours can be bigger than mine. We kind of come in on both sides. There's one little pumpkin, but we want it a little bit bigger. We're going to keep on adding those shapes. This one's a really funky looking pumpkin. Okay, and just keep adding. Okay, so here's our pumpkin. Now we want a nice stem for our pumpkin. So right at the top, right above our middle piece, we're going to kind of draw like a, I don't know, like a fish hook type of piece. We can do two. And we're going to connect. That's it. You can make yours longer. You can make yours kind of twisty. Okay, so here we are here. Let's see how we've got like a, here's mine. Doesn't matter what you do, okay? Any kind of crazy stem. Think about what stems look like in nature. They usually, I find mine curve. I don't know why I like that, but you could do it straight. It doesn't matter which way you do it, okay? That's it for our brown marker. The next step we're going to do is we're going to move to an orange marker. We're going to start to fill in our pumpkin. So hopefully you have some type of pumpkin, whatever your pumpkin looks like. Just a reminder, this is where we want to end up. This is kind of where we're at. We've got these little pumpkins here. So let's see what it looks like by adding some color. So yes, I've had people in the past ask me, well, do I have to do it orange? No, you don't. You can do it any color. I think there's even like white, greenish kind of pumpkins or those gourds. I don't know. So what we're going to do is we're going to just add color. And what I like about when you use a thick marker, you can also use watercolors if you like. But if you're using watercolors, make sure you have a permanent marker that you're using. Because if you use a water-soluble, it's going to run. It's going to run. But today we're just sticking with markers or crayons, oil pastels, anything you have on hand. So as you can see, I'm using the flat part of my marker, and I'm just kind of coming down and I'm making lines to fill it in. Now, you might ask, why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? See how I'm coming down one? I think it's an easier way to do it. And I think it looks more like the structure of a pumpkin. If you are a person, and I'm going to use this one, and you just kind of color willy-nilly, scribbly scrabbly, loosey-goosey, don't worry about it. That's okay too. And that might look really beautiful. So if you just kind of hit it in any way you want, go for it. For some people, that's the best way their hands work. They just want to kind of fill it in. Okay, you could do scribbly scrabbly, as I said, loosey goosey, whatever it is. If you're a little bit more exact in details, you like neatness, you like things to look kind of orderly. Not that those things don't look good when we're loosey goosey. This goes really fast. We're doing our marker moving in straight lines, vertical lines, up and down. So we're coming down, and that's going to give you the nice kind of ridges that a pumpkin might have. Okay? It's also pretty fast. It's pretty fast when you do it. And this works best if you have a fat marker. If you do not have a fat marker, don't worry about it. You can do the other way. Two different ways. Two different ways. Up and down lines, kind of like paintbrush strokes. Sometimes your brush strokes, you want to use them in a certain way. Or wiggly squiggly. Either way is good. Either way is good. Our perfect pumpkin is looking great. Now, we're going to use another color, and I didn't pull out red initially, but I might experiment with some red. I like to experiment sometimes, but I'm going to use some yellow as well. I'm going to add some highlights to our pumpkin. So here's my pumpkin. Sometimes we might have lines. You know, it's hard to color in what I guess we would say perfectly, right? And also light kind of shines off objects in a certain way. So we get lighter tones, we get different things. So what I like to do for that is I might come in with a nice bright yellow, fill in those spaces, and it just kind of adds a little bit of color to it. See how I'm kind of finding those little spaces? I'm just kind of adding where I think that I might need some brightness. Kind of makes it a little bit more three-dimensional, a little bit more interesting. This also really works well if you have a loosey-goosey type of setup. And I think it makes it look really interesting. So sometimes our hands get tired and to constantly fill in an area, and we wind up having open spaces. And you totally can leave them. Mr. Sketch, this one smells like popcorn, which is delish. There's one that's really gross, the one that's nacho cheese, which is pretty gross to me. You can also go back, sorry, I digress. You can kind of fill in with another color. It just makes it a little bit more interesting from, a perspective, a color perspective, an art perspective. Kind of looks interesting. You can also add, I didn't say this originally, but you can kind of even add some some red in certain areas if you want to kind of add a little bit of, a little bit of dimension kind of coming in around those spots. This one smells good. I think this is cherry. Go get your Mr. Sketch. Well, a little something. I'll show you over here as well. If you want, you don't have to. Maybe add a line inside. Just kind of give your pumpkin a little little extra pizzazz, gives it a little bit more kind of more dimension. Okay, that takes a little bit of practice because you're going around, but it's a good way to practice your lines. I know my pumpkin's like, he's a little deformed. He's coming down here. Let's go to our stem. Okay, I'm going to take a lighter brown. You can take any color. You can take green. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of come in and add some lines to it. You can color the whole thing, especially if you have like crayon, colored pencils, anything you have. Okay, so just add some lines. I'm adding in some lines, and I'm not even coloring in the whole thing because that gives it makes it look like a little twisty, or it's got divots in it. Because when you look at a pumpkin stem, it's not just smooth. Okay, same thing here. Maybe I'm going to do some wiggly lines. Okay, wiggly lines. Whatever you got. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I might leave mine plain. I think I'll leave this one plain. If you want to go back and add more color to it, you can add green. Let's add a little green. Let's add a little green to our pumpkin stem. Let's see what we get. Yeah, I'm adding a little bit of green. Gives it a little bit of color. There we go. So it's up to you. You can color the whole thing in solid. You can draw those lines to give the illusion of ridges, okay, kind of like this one. They can be straight or they can kind of be a little wiggly. So it's up to you which way you want to do it. Okay, you can leave it plain or you can add green. All righty. Now basically, you're almost done with your perfect pumpkin. Perfect pumpkin every time. It looks just a little bit more real. Okay, but let's add a few more details to it. So I like to add like a green vine and maybe some ground to our pumpkin. So there's two different ways you can do this. A lot of times what we want to do is we want to add the ground to kind of the background. And our pumpkin's not really sitting on the ground per se. Like the only way that would work, like where it was really like right on the ground and we would draw the line right on the bottom of the pumpkin, is if we're looking right at the pumpkin. We're laying on the ground and our nose is in the ground, and that's where we see it. It's not really how it works, because usually we're looking down at our pumpkin, looking at it a little differently. And these are things what we call perspective and stuff. So it's really your choice. But if you want to draw a line going right underneath your pumpkin, like flush to the bottom of the pumpkin, you can. But that's not really how my pumpkin works. Also, when we do that a lot of times, there's different ways that we can draw grass and things like that. So here's my pumpkin, and I'm going to draw another pumpkin. Look at that. This one definitely looks like a gourd, right? That one looks like a gourd. That costs like $50 to get. Okay, look, I wasn't even trying. I wasn't even doing it. I was doing it upside down, and it still came out perfect. So some people will draw a line there. You can. You absolutely can. But probably what's more realistic is you have some ground beneath your pumpkin. I mean, behind your pumpkin. And you can draw straight lines as well. This would be your horizon line. This is where the ground meets the sky. But you know what? That's a little boring too. Let's make this a little snazzy. Sometimes our pumpkin's in the grass, right? Look at that. So we're going to add some squiggles to our grass. So let's get that started. So if it helps, you can absolutely draw your line, your horizon line. I'm drawing it kind of a couple of inches above my pumpkin. Now I'm going to try this with my left hand. We want the ground on the other side to be equal, and I am not, that's not too bad. I'm not ambidextrous, so I can't really draw with my left hand. I'm hopelessly a righty. So we have that line. Now, if you have colored pencils, you have your marker, you have crayons, you have watercolors, and you want to paint in there with your grass, you absolutely can. And you can make it one solid kind of look. But let's see if we can add some little spikes. Instead of going across, which we can, let's see if we can kind of draw down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, kind of like that. And when we get into our pumpkin, maybe some of the grass is coming up with our pumpkin. See, I'm kind of just going up, down. Maybe I'll add a little line. Just kind of up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, wispies, up, wispies. Okay? I think that's kind of an interesting way to draw our pumpkins. And if you want to throw in some lines, you can. Okay? It's kind of like the base ground. You have this kind of wispiness coming up, right? So our lines, yeah, maybe we have some there. But by adding the lines going across horizontal, side to side, with some growing up, that kind of looks a little bit more realistic. I think so. I don't know. You may disagree. And you can even, if you have different colors of green, and of course I do because I have the big mega box of Mr. Sketch. I got a lot of colors. You can even add some different colors. And don't worry if you're like, Deborah, I can still see the pumpkin peeking out. Good, because that's what's actually going to happen in real life. The pumpkin, through grass, you really can kind of see it. We'll add some other lines here. So instead of us really kind of coloring in the whole thing, we're just kind of adding some nice little lines, okay? And if you want to add some fall colors in your grass, totally, you totally can. And this is a great way to hide my little guy's he's a little chunky there, little boo-boos and things like that, that tall grass wisping up, okay? Perfect pumpkin every time. I love to draw pumpkins. I don't know, that makes me weird, probably. And it's pumpkin spice season, so there we go. Now, the last thing we're going to add is you can do this in brown, you can do this in green. I like green because I think we needs a little bit of a color. When we use a lot of orange and red, those warm tones, and browns, it's kind of subdued. So let's give a little bit of a pop of color. We're going to add a squiggly wiggly line to kind of be, we're going to kind of add some little, I don't know, some vines, some little squiggles, which make it kind of interesting. So you can come anywhere out of the stem, come out of the top. And we're just going to kind of make a squiggle. Maybe I'll do one over here, and maybe one up here, okay? You can do 1, 2, 3, whatever you like. And if you want to do a leaf or something like that, you can absolutely do a leaf. I'd like to try to do like a thicker leaf. Maybe I kind of draw like a little thick leaf or something like that. But I think the vines are really cool to do for your pumpkin. But it's up to you. And there's your perfect pumpkin every time. Here's our other pumpkin that we did. And as I said, you can have the line coming right underneath your pumpkin. I'll show you here if you want. That's usually not the way you might see things in nature. So you might have some lines coming across. We could add more, okay? But see how it's kind of coming behind it. It's all depending on how you're looking at your pumpkin. And once again, add those wisps. If you're not good with those wiggly squigglies, all you have to do is just do lines going up. And that's why I like marker for this, because all you have to do is just draw lines going up. I'm flicking. And that does, I get it. It takes practice. It takes practice to do that as well. And if you want um, your your little vines, as I said, you don't have to do it in green. You can do something in brown if you want. You don't have to do it in all those different colors. I kind of like bringing a little bit of green to the top, but I don't know. I kind of like this one too. It's really up to you. We'll see the two. So they're each unique. They're each different. They look different. We're using different colors. We're using slightly different drawing techniques. But the idea is the perfect pumpkin every time. When you start with that middle, to make that circle, and then you add those crescent shapes on each side, you will get a perfect pumpkin every time. Now, if you're the type of person that you like round pumpkins and you like to add your lines inside, that's totally okay. There's not a problem. You're working out towards the center. Here, we're starting in the center, working our way out. Different perspectives, different ways. You can try them both. It's completely up to you. But this is something everybody can do, either by yourself or with a friend or a family member. It's a fun way. Just start drawing pumpkins everywhere, wherever you can. Grab some chalk, draw them on your street. Why not? I think the deer will be less disappointed because I do think they like to eat the real pumpkins when we're done with them. But this is a perfect pumpkin. And then once you get your pumpkin drawn, you can go to maybe a dollar store or a craft store and get yourself a nice picture frame, diploma size or certificate size usually works pretty well. Pop it in, put it up. You got a beautiful design for Halloween and into Thanksgiving. And if you want to turn it into a jack-o'-lantern, you know the deal. You can easily take a marker or whatever you need and draw your jack-o'-lantern shape. It doesn't matter. It's the perfect pumpkin every time for every need. So I wish you well. I hope you are having a wonderful pumpkin spice latte season. For those of you who are familiar with my classes, I do live remote classes for all sorts of artists as well as individuals with special needs or need a little extra instruction. My new calendar is coming out for October. I'm trying a new format, so I'm hoping that that will work. And I'd like to try to put up a different lesson for you each month on YouTube. We have other lessons there as well for you to check out. So have a great day, and I will see you soon. Happy drawing.